Welcome to Google Tutorials. And today, tutorial number 5, Desktop Publishing with Presentations. Or, how can I live without Publisher? Now, many of you have probably used Microsoft Publisher before, and it's a great desktop publishing application. It's really simple and easy to use, and we've been using it for a long time. But there's no similar product in the Google world. In other words, in the G Suite, there's no product that's the same thing. We have Google Docs that replaces Microsoft Word, and we have Google Sheets, and so on, but we don't really have something for desktop publishing. Or do we? So today we're going to take a look at how we can use presentations as a publisher alternative. So I'm just going to pop into a Google presentation, and I am going to start off by changing my layout to blank. So go to layout up there and choose blank. Now I'm just doing this so that I have a nice clean slate to work with. One of the first things that you might want to do is figure out a way to get a piece of paper that is portrait instead of landscape. So in this case, this guy is wider than it is tall. It's 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper essentially, but we want it to be, instead of 11 by 8.5, we want it to be 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to go into File and Page Setup. File and Page Setup. There's a really neat thing here that you can do in presentations or slides. It's the same thing, by the way, slides and presentations. They're both interchangeable. If I change this here, I can go from widescreen to standard to widescreen 1610, or I can go to custom. And if I go to custom, I can now say I want this page to be exactly a certain size. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say I want this thing to be 8.5 inches wide and 11 inches tall. Standard piece of paper. I click OK, and now I have a standard piece of paper. So I can now start doing some simple desktop publishing. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through all the features in here because there's a lot of features, but I just want you to get a feel right now today, and I'll do some follow-up tutorials on specific uses here. I want you to just get a feel for what you can use this for. So the first thing you're going to be interested in is a text box. And you can create a text box like so, and you can put in your title here, or whatever it is you want. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, change my font so it's 72-point font, make it something other than Arial. Let's go with that right there. And I can adjust this box however I like. I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller, all that kind of stuff. I can also adjust the alignment, make it centered. I can adjust the alignment. I can adjust the alignment also here for the actual vertical alignment in the box. So I can make it so it's nice and centered in the box and so on. Then I can grab this box and I can move it wherever I want. And it's very freeform. And you'll notice as I move to the center, I actually get that red line, which tells me that I am in fact centered. That is centered. So if I center the text in the box, using this here, and then I move it so that it is centered, it snaps into place centered, I now have it perfectly centered. So I'm going to call this the Amazing Publisher Alternative. And so now I'm going to extend this out, make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to make this bigger so it fits in like so. And there we go. And now I'm going to just drop this guy down. Now sometimes you can get this so that it's not quite right when you move around with your mouse. And so what you can do instead is you can use the arrow keys. I'm just using the 4 arrow keys now on my keyboard, and I can move this around as I want. So I'm going to make sure that this is centered. Grab it on the side here. And there we go, it's centered perfectly. And now I can use the arrow keys to move it up just a little bit. There we go. So one of the things we want to do here is we want to add text in different formats. So I can add text like so, and let's say this is my story text. So I'm just going to put in here, this is where I'll put my story. And I'm just going to copy this and just paste it a few times so I've got some and just trying to give me a little bit of text here. And there we go. So now I can adjust this if I want. Now this is not going to text flow. So it will not text flow, meaning I can't say I want to go from one box to another box, but I can do what I want with this box, and I can make it so however I want. Now if I move this around, I'm going to get the same kind of snaps. If I move it over to here, I'm going to get the left margin snap. And if I want this right over there, I'm going to get a snap right so that it's in line with that. So those two line up, so I can get that as well. And if I move to the center, I'm going to get a center snap, just like so. And the same thing on this side. So you've got lots of options to line things up. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put that right like that. And then I'm just going to bring this up like so and bring this across. Now notice what happens when I do that. It will actually show me so it's equal to the box above it. Let go. And make this a little bigger. And there we go. So you can move text around. You can make it into some kind of a column sort of style. You can do lots of things there. Inside here, you can also change, things like the backgrounds. I can make the background like so. I can change the line so it's thicker. I can change the line so it is dashed or other type like so. So there's a lot of options there. You can also put in pictures in here as you would expect just by going into image, and I can insert images and I can choose images from different locations. And I can also create a lot of shapes. And I'm going to spend a moment showing the shapes. These are very similar to PowerPoint, very similar to Publisher, very similar to Microsoft Word that you might have seen. But you have a lot of options here. So I'm going to get a little smiley face, click and drag. So there's my smiley face. I'll create another one here just by going up here to the shape. I'm going to make an arrow like so, drag my arrow like so, and I have a couple of images. Now the same thing here, I can change the background so that it's kind of a different color. I can change the line color so it's a different color. I can do the same thing over here. I'm going to make this guy so it's a nice big thick line, and I'm going to make it a red. I did red for that one. Let's do blue for this one, and I'm going to make a light blue inside. So there's my arrow. Now I can click on this and I can adjust this if I want. I can click right up here, right up there, that little circle, and I can adjust this so that it angles it. And I can also use these little diamonds. Whenever you see a yellow diamond, that means I can adjust and make this into something different. So I can make this really narrow, or I can make this really wide, go up like so, and I can adjust my arrow to be essentially whatever I want it to be. So there's my arrow. And over here, the same thing, I've got a little diamond here. I can make my smiley face an unhappy face. And now when I move these guys around, I'm going to have the same kind of snap. So if I move that, I can line it up perfectly there. I can take this guy and I can line him up perfectly, just grab him like that. And I can move him over here. I can now make sure that I have the same spacing in my arrow. See those two bars that showed up there? So in other words, when I move up just slightly, I get that is the same spacing as is above my body text above there. So between Amazing Publisher Alternative and the body text, there's a certain amount of space. And now my arrow is exactly the same amount of space there as well. So it gives you a lot of alignment tools. I'm going to actually turn this like this and adjust it so that it is, let's go like so, 270 degrees, perfect. I'm going to grab this thing and now it is exactly spaced properly. And I'm going to make another little guy here. I'm going to make, oh sure, let's make a call out. I'll make this guy here. And now when I move this, see that the little two boxes that show up there, the two lines, that shows me now I'm equally spaced between this one and this one and this one. So again, lots of alignment tools that are really easy to use. If I move it over here, I'm now adjusting according to that. Move over here, I'm now adjusting according to that. If I move into the center, I'm now lined up to the center of the arrow. If I move over here, I'm lined up to the center of the page. If I move down here, I'm lined up to the center of the face on the left, and I'm also equidistant between the smiley, or in this case frowny face, and the arrow. Lots and lots of options. And I can also click in here and I can start typing, and whatever I type in there will be contained inside that particular graphic. Again, of course, I can make this, let's make this a little bit different. I'll make this into a nice yellow gradient, and I'll make my orange outline, and I'll make it 3 points so it's kind of punches, and there we go. If I make this bigger, again, I'm going to, as I drag this, I get all of these crazy handles that tell me, hey, do you want to line up with the arrow? Do you want to line up with the face? Do you want it to be centered? And so on. And I'm going to go into here and I'm going to put, sure, hello. I'll go hello again. And I'm going to adjust the centering. So I go center right there. I'm going to adjust the center so it's up and down vertical. And then I'm going to change the font so that it is 30 point. Oops, I should highlight it first. I'm going to change it so that it is 30-point font. A little bit too big, so I'll go to 24. And there we go. So that's just a very quick overview of how you can use some of the tools that are available in Slides to do some simple desktop publishing. Very, very simple desktop publishing, but it can be pretty handy.